This denial means that there is now nothing in the way of the hearings where Nick either has to, by I believe Tuesday, and he has like, there's like 3 court, there's like, well I guess April's is coming up soon as well, but I think there's like, it's either April or Kayla's, then you've got Nick's civil case, then you've got Nick's criminal case, then you've got Thanksgiving. So it's going to be a fun little holiday next week, I suppose. But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. At this point, he has to either accept a plea deal, plead guilty, or fight. If he fights, I think it'll be very funny, and it's not looking too good for him. We'll have to see, though. We'll have to see how it goes. Has he paid the $300 he owes to Montegraph? No, he has not. No, he has not. The backtracking and the jokes on you we were just pretending for the, I guess you'd call it cyber stalking of Aaron from Steel Toe. It's another win for the Toe, unironically. Basically what happened is they've been spying on Aaron for the last, I don't know, 6 months, saving all his records, reading his PDFs, reading his applications for radio companies, sharing it between people, laughing. And this is a very serious crime. You can't just look at people's stuff because they logged on your computer. And I think Aaron even implied that maybe Nick's like looked over his shoulder when he was entering the password, and it's not just a case of leaving his computer logged in or anything. But Melton has come out and said that I was just pretending. It was all just a joke. Legal mindset doesn't know what he's talking about. I just said alleged. The problem is they've been talking about these files for months. Months in their private Discord. Spoiler alert, anything that happens in a Discord will come out. Just assume it's an inevitability. But so we got that on the menu, as well as a couple of interesting things, like something I didn't hear today. I got to thank the casino, I suppose, because they cottoned me onto this clip by Nova. Oh wait, not this one, sorry. There was a different clip that I actually don't have loaded up, but it doesn't matter. But they cottoned me onto a very interesting clip that I had not seen that did take place on Camelot's stream, where he talked about Nick offering him hookers early in the morning in Vegas, which is very funny when you look at some of the tweets that had come back. Dear Diary, this is a locals post by Rekieta Law. Another week has gone by, and I continue to marvel at the way the internet, lowercase I internet, since I think Josh Moon isn't streaming for the entire month of December, because I think he's moving back to America, but he's trying to be sneaky about it or something, but I think everybody knows. But lowercase I internet processes information. I am also haunted by specters. Oh my goodness. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, do Americans really spell specter T-E-R-S instead of the correct T-R-E-S? Now, this is a little bit silly, and I think the reason he included specters, not ghosts, is there's another character, the Spectre Report, who has been doing some investigative journalism on the actual processes of when a child tests positive for the booger sugar, the Colombian magic powder. I don't know. I don't know what they call it. You can see I'm very much a nerdy person myself. But Spectre has been a bit of an A-log in Nick's past recently, so I think he specifically used the language Spectre here as a dig at Spectre. But he says, I am also haunted by specters, not ghosts, but figurative projections people place. It tipped me off when someone claimed that me letting April live rent-free and tax-free in a house was abusive because I didn't supply the house with internet. Now, here's the thing. Nick keeping April in the trap house with no internet isn't really... It's just a funny little theory, people think. But it's very likely to be true because of the way, the manipulation that this person has over certain people in his life. And that actually reminds me of one detail I kind of forgot. I'll just write down a note so I don't forget about it. But it seems like it could be likely. I mean, she's an adult woman. She doesn't have to stay there. She could leave. But it has seemed like the ape escape arc may actually be occurring. We've got to put it out. There we go. Got the ceiling cats. Now everything's right in the world. But he's very, very mad about this claim. And look, you're the one that stuck this woman in your second house, where by April's own admission, all she does is watch TV on her phone and waits for his calls. And he didn't have an internet for 6 months. And when she had internet, when she went to the Spectrum store and saw your wife, who refused to acknowledge her, After that event, she started tweeting up a storm. Now, suspiciously, April hasn't really tweeted for like, I think 3-4 days now, and people are starting to wonder, did Nick just take a hatchet to the Starlink or something? Did he actually cover the house in tinfoil, like in Better Call Saul or something, to prevent the radio frequencies from getting out? Because April was fucking up his entire charade of whatever he was saying. Yeah, it's the thought crimes. He's coming after her for thought crimes. Exactly. But there you go. Also, if you're trying to sell a house and it doesn't have internet, I don't know. I'm not going to buy that house. But very, very funny little story that may very well be true. You can't expect anything these days, I suppose. The specter of addiction allows people to self-justify any thoughts or words towards the alleged addict. There are several other specters at play, but currently, right now, addiction is the hammer in search of nails. Now, this is an interesting language, hammer in search of nails. That's actually language that's used quite frequently on certain shows that are very critical of Nick. The statement that everyone wants to be the hammer and no one wants to be the nail. Now, of course, that's not exclusive to these communities, but I think that this would suggest that he's been watching all these shows, which we all really know that he is. But let's go back a second. Let's go back a little bit for these. We're going to dissect these paragraphs because Nick himself, he's a wordsmith. He's an English major graduate before he got his JD. So every little detail here is it's crafted to perfection by the mastermind, right? He's 5-heading this post on his Dear Diary post. As you can see, there's multiple layers of meanings in every paragraph of this masterpiece. So let's see. The specter of addiction allows people to self-justify without any thoughts or words towards the alleged addict. Now, Nick has, for many months and perhaps years, said that you cannot say that you're not an alcoholic. This started back with Dry July, which is a bit of a, it's all coming back to me now. It's all coming back to me. I kind of forgot about this. Dry July was, was it Dry July? Was it Sober January or Sober February? Someone claimed, I'm pretty sure it was like Sober January or something. It wasn't Dry July is what everyone regularly does. It was the Dry January. Yes, thank you, chat. So what happened is people have been claiming that Nick is an alcoholic and also a coke addict for quite a while. The alcohol longer than anything else, though. And Nick would say, well, the thing about being an addict is you can't claim you're not an addict because everyone just says, well, that's what an addict would say. Turns out he was an addict, so yes, I guess. So Dry January was a suggestion by his friend. I think it was Cecil, who does it every year. And he's like he's kind of in the EVS space, I think. It kind of goes around that crowd. But, it's simply just don't drink for the entire of January. An easy way to start the year to get it off on the right foot and maybe make some improvements in your life is, as you get older, you probably should be drinking less anyway, right? And he's pushing 40 or something now, so he's a bit of an old boy. But so Nick committed to this Dry January, but then he was like, "Well, I didn't say Dry January," which he absolutely did. He absolutely said Dry January. He started to do the trickle truth. The little bit of detail started crawling out. It's like, well, actually, what I meant was no drinking on stream. Which, when you're showing up to a stream drunk, I don't know if that counts. And it's not even remotely the same thing. It's not even remotely. Like, when you say Dry January, everyone assumes that you mean that you're not going to be drinking at all. So when this came out that he was having a few drinks, and quite a few drinks, people were, realistically or reasonably upset. And that's when he was like, it's kind of obvious to a lot of people at that point that how much of an addict he actually was, because he was going into these bargaining phases. And that's what all addicts do, is they find ways to bargain their way through I won't drink. Oh, unless I'm with friends. You don't want to be a weirdo. You're like, even though it's perfectly normal to just not have a drink with dinner, but they'll make these deals like, well, I don't want to seem strange. I don't want to seem strange. I just want to lube the social wheels a little bit, But the bargaining, that's really the mark of an addict, because addicts will say anything, but they won't just stop doing what they're addicted to. And Nick could just not stop drinking. So he would claim, if I say I'm not going to drink, or if I just stop drinking, people will still assume that I'm an addict. Not true. If you just stop drinking, people will actually be pretty like, oh, like the streams are improving. You're not like slurring your words. You're not coming up like a fucking mess. Like, people that'll reflect on the stream, people will know. But he liked to say this. He wanted to self-sabotage in my mind. That's what he was saying. Is like, well, I can't quit drinking because everyone's going to call me an addict anyway, so I might as well be an addict. Well, then, newsflash, you're an addict. Congratulations, I suppose. But there you go. So Nick was saying all along that you cannot ever deny being an addict, but, you know, shocker, he turned out to be one. So there are several other specters at play, but currently, right now, addiction is the hammer in search of the nails. Now, is Nick still an addict? I would say yes, because he hasn't really shown any remorse for his actions. He hasn't shown any will to change. In fact, he has said on his own streams that if it were not for the government, he'd be drinking right now. And I believe it's been 14 days since he's been taken off testing anyway. So he could be drinking now as freely as he wants and just trying to hide it. And he's not streaming anyway, so nobody's going to be there to check him. Even though, he probably couldn't hide it anyway. But I think some of his deranged tweets have kind of tipped off the hand on that one. But you'll have to be your own judge, right? You know, we don't really know what's going on inside the house until the Bodycam comes out, which is becoming all the more of a foregone conclusion. The Bodycam footage is almost certainly going to come out now. Now, some people have suggested that it'll be out as soon as he takes a plea deal or as soon as it's submitted to evidence. I don't actually think so, because to my understanding, the Bodycam footage has not yet been censored, and I say this because Josh Moon still has the money that the Minnesota police station requested. Now, they wanted about approximately like $5,000 to $6,000 because it's going to be like 50 man-hours of editing out any minor in the footage. And it seems unlikely to me that they would do this prior to accepting payment. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they went ahead and did the work all along anyway. But I would imagine that they won't start doing the work until they get paid. So even though some people are thinking the Bodycam will be out this week or next week, I would still say it's probably going to be another week after it becomes declassified or no longer confidential. And that will happen when he either claims he's guilty or claims he's innocent and goes to fight it, because it becomes then evidence, right? When it's introduced into the court system, that's when it's evidence and it's available to the public. After, of course, the lengthy process of blurring all those faces out. The only way that he could possibly have it not reach the public at this point was he would have to claim he was innocent. The way I understand it, he would have to claim that he is innocent. He would have to claim he's innocent, and then he would have to submit a motion to suppress the evidence from being entered into the court, which seems very unlikely since it is a key piece of evidence and he's had no luck in removing any of the warrants. So it seems completely unlikely at this stage. It's basically inevitable, in my opinion. Let me see. But there's, all right, so next paragraph. Once you are labeled something sufficiently, the reality of your circumstances are irrelevant. The label is all that matters. It's why Trump is so effective at eliminating his competition. He branded them simply and effectively. This isn't the first time that Nick has alluded to him and Trump being kindred spirits, but you can definitely come back from these labels. But if you're drinking every day and saying that if you stop drinking, then you're just going to be called an addict anyway, it doesn't help your case. It doesn't help your case. So I don't buy this. The brands of addict or alcoholic are used to strip the humanity from the branded and used as a trump card in any discussion. The addict is never allowed to deny the branding. You can absolutely deny the branding, but you have to give people the reason to believe you. Again, this is just kind of self-sabotaging, in my opinion, because you're saying, well, they're not going to believe me anyway, so why should I even bother trying to quit the drinking? Denial is a sign of addiction, after all. Well, he did deny it, and he was an addict, so I guess congratulations. The brands justify condensation and any removal of autonomy necessary to prevail over the addict in any disagreement. Or you could just give someone reason to trust you by being trustworthy. Now, trust is one of those things where it takes years to build and seconds to destroy. Now, let's look at the facts. Nick was so much of an addict that he couldn't not have a drink during a stream, and he couldn't go streams without even just doing coke. He goes for those coke breaks, those very long, mysterious breaks, the one where he literally came back with coke on his nose. And even if you look at reports from his church and community, the conspiring evil community, they're the ones that said that he would leave church because it was so boring. He would have to go out for a bump during his Sunday service. So there you go. I mean, yeah, justifying him as an addict, I think it's easy to come to that conclusion.